Don't trust nobody. In Hollywood, specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
Obligation to the game of basketball, not financially. I'm okay. I mean, I think more or less from as a basketball player is to be able to pass on messages of success and dedication to the game of basketball.
Still love it?
Love it like you wouldn't believe. I mean, in all honesty, I wish.
MichaelJordan's abandoned mansion wasn't just a failed real estate listing. It became the center of rumors about FBI visits, hidden rooms, and secrets that could change the way people see him. We're standing in front of one of the strangest celebrity property stories ever. This 56,000 square foot estate in Highland Park, Illinois, sat on the market for more than 10 years. Its price dropped from $29 million all the way down to about $95 million. But the real story isn't about the money. It's what might have been left behind when you look deeper into the mansion's, the break-ins, the sale to a mystery buyer, and the talk of fortress-like rooms. You start to wonder, was this really just a house, or was it hiding something no one was meant to discover?
I wish I could take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today. Because that's who I am. That's that type of competition, that type of competitiveness is what I live for, and I miss it. I miss that aspect of playing the game of basketball. Being able to challenge myself against what people see as.
MichaelJordan's abandoned mansion wasn't just a failed real estate listing. It became the center of rumors about FBI visits, rooms, and secrets that could change the way people see him. We're standing in front of one of the strangest celebrity property stories out there. This massive 56,000 square estate in Highland Park, Illinois, sat on the market for more than a decade. Its price dropped from $29 million all the way down to just $9.5 million. But the real story isn't the money. It's what have been left inside when you dig into the mansion's past, the break-ins, the sudden sale to a mystery buyer, and the whisper about secret fortress-like rooms. You can't help but, was this ever just a house, or was it hiding something no one was meant to uncover?
So a lot of things in Hollywood are ritualistic for sure. And if you pay close attention to it, you can see it. When you see somebody holding up this like this, with the two fingers close like this, that's the hand sign of the Baphomet. You know, they do say Luciferianism.
We know this mansion was built as a kind of tribute to Jordan himself. It sits on 7 acres, has a full regulation basketball court, a cigar room, a 14-car garage, and even a front gate stamped with his famous number 23. But here's the problem: when a home becomes this personalized, it stops being a regular house and starts feeling more like a shrine. Shrines don't sell. They just sit and collect dust. Real estate insiders have said for years that the extreme customization, the Jordan details, and a layout built for a basketball superstar made the place almost impossible to repurpose. Most luxury buyers don't want to live inside someone else's legacy, but that explanation only goes so far. Because if customization was the only issue, why did it take 13 years to find a buyer in? Why did the buyer pay less than half of what similar luxury estates in the area were going for? Some people believe the clues lie in what might have happened behind those gates when no one was paying attention. Then came the break-in in April 2023, Highland Park. Police responded to a burglary call at the address. People still associated with MichaelJordan, an 18-year-old and a minor, were detained. The official report described it as a small incident, a broken window, some damage, and no signs that anything was stolen. But think about what that really means. This wasn't a typical smash-on grab. It was a breach proof that 2 strangers managed to walk through a massive, empty property that had been sitting untouched for years. So it raises a question. If 2 teenagers could get in that easily, who else might have gotten inside before? And what were they hoping to find? That's where things take a darker turn. People familiar with the property have whispered for years about unusual features, hidden rooms not shown on blueprint, spaces built like vaults, and areas that even some contractors were reportedly never allowed to enter. And when you combine those rumors, the reports that federal investigators once showed interest in the estate while it sat on the market, you start to wonder, was this really just a real estate story, or was something else going on?
You never really know when you're in the prime of your career how much time you really do not have for family. That's what I have time to do now. I mean, the most valuable asset I have is.
The part about the FBI is where things get blurry. There's no public record of a raid, no official investigation, and nothing that confirms federal involvement. But over the years, some people in Chicago's law enforcement circles have suggested that federal agents might have taken an interest in the property while it sat empty. Why, that's the million-dollar question. Some believe it could have been related to Jordan's business world, his endorsements in partnerships and high-value contracts that naturally draw scrutiny. Others say the mansion's size and privacy made it the kind of place people were curious about. And then there's the timing, the 2023 break-in, the sudden sale in 2024, and a new owner who, according to local reports, immediately began removing the personal touches tied to Jordan, almost as if he wanted to clear the slate fast. Coincidence, or just a convenient moment for the property to finally change hands after a decade of sitting still, are the questions people began asking as rumors about the mansion reached their peak. But this isn't the only celebrity property attracting attention these days. Entertainment and sports world has been full of stories, speculation, and online chatter about different figures navigating complicated public situations. Fans on social media point to high-profile friendships, appearances at well-known events, and involvement in circles that later came under scrutiny. In the NBA, separate federal investigations into gambling and misconduct have led to arrests and accusations involving a few players and associates. These cases have fueled even more speculation online, where people often connect dots that may or may not actually relate ties to other public figures whose own legal troubles made headlines. Old videos resurface, social media moves get dissected, and fans start to read patterns into every detail, even when there's no confirmed connection. It's a cycle we've seen many times. A celebrity insists they're not involved, rumors circulate anyway, and the public keeps watching as the story grows bigger than anyone expected.
Sources told the Post that Jones sent a message to one of the betting ring members on February 9, 2023, urging him to place a large bet on the Lakers' opponent, the Milwaukee Bucks, because James would be out with an injury.
Now let's bring the focus back to Jordan's mansion, because whenever people start talking about hidden rooms and federal interest, the comparisons become hard to ignore. In the sports world, LeBron's name has been pulled into conversations about the company he keeps, and events Hayes appeared at, all of which have come under scrutiny. In the Jordan's mansion, meanwhile, was the opposite of public. It was a fortress, a place designed for complete privacy, the kind of environment where, in theory, anything could happen out of sight. And when people connect those dots, they start to wonder whether the real reason this property sat on the market for so long wasn't just the price or the customization, but the risk of what might be found. The risk of what a new owner might stumble across, because here's the truth. When a house this famous, this tied to a global icon, private life sits empty for more than a decade, it doesn't just gather dust. It attracts curiosity from trespassers, from investigators, and from people who claim to know how to search for things others might want forgotten. Then came the new owner, John Cooper, a real estate executive known for flipping high-end property. He bought the mansion for $95 million, an absolute steal for an estate of this size, but what happened next raised eyebrows. Almost immediately, reports surfaced that Cooper was making major changes, not simple upgrades removed. The iconic 23-gate gun Jordan's branding quietly scrubbed away, even the basketball court rumored to be repurposed. It was as if the first priority wasn't restoring the mansion, but erasing its past. And that raises a natural question: why would a buyer move so quickly to strip away the identity of the property? Unless they felt it was important to create distance, unless they'd been advised or warned about what lingering traces the house might hold. Then there's the timing. The mansion sells in December 2024. By early 2025, the NBA is rattled by a major.
What the victims, the fish, didn't know is that everybody else at the poker game, from the dealer to the players, including the face cards, were.
But here's where the story twists even further. While the public focused on the break-in, the sale, and the new owners rushed to rebrand the estate, people behind the scenes were whispering about something else entirely. The mansion's design, certain wings of the property seemed built with more than comfort in mind, not just privacy. Isolation rooms with no reinforced doors that felt closer to vaults than bedrooms. Spaces that, according to contractors who worked there years ago, were strictly as off-limits, even to the crew. It raises a question people love to speculate about. Why would a basketball legend need that level of security inside his own home unless the house was storing more than memorabilia, unless there were things that were never meant to see daylight? And then there's the FBI angle, not documented but often rumored in conversations about high-profile estates. Federal agents have a history of taking interest in celebrity properties when they're chasing financial records, tracing business dealings, or trying to match a public image to a private life. Jordan's mansion, massive maze-like, and left untouched for over a decade, naturally fed those theories. especially when people consider the size of his empire. The endorsements, the corporate partnerships, the deals that in any superstar's career create a long and complicated paper trail. And in a world where money moves faster than anything else, paper trails always exist if any of those trails point it back to a mansion that no one could sell for over a decade. Some people say that's more than a coincidence, they see it as a warning sign. Fit this into the bigger picture. The NBA's recent gambling scandal wasn't only about one or two names. It exposed an entire culture built on access insider details and high stakes behind closed doors. Fans online have already drawn their own lines between public figures, power networks, and the murkier side of fame. And MichaelJordan, he wasn't just an athlete, he was, and still, a global brand, a business empire. A man who operated in rooms where the stakes were higher than the score and where the boundaries between legitimate deals and questionable decisions could blur quick shadows. So when people wonder why his mansion sat empty for over 10 years, when they talk about the rumored federal interest, they notice how fast the new owner moved to erase every trace of the house's past.
I would love to see him have a farewell tour, then just walk away, because he's one of the three greatest players I've ever seen after Michael and Kobe. But I don't want to see him just hanging on just for the heck of it.
Because here's the thing about secrets. They never stay buried forever. Not in a house this big. Not when that house changes hands under strange circumstances. And not when the person who built it spent years shaping every inch of his public image with precision. So when people wonder what might have been inside the legendary mansion, they're not talking about trophies or old contracts. They're imagining the things that don't have a price tag, the things that could shake more than just a estate listing, the things the TIFF discovered gold. Rewrite the mythology surrounding a sports icon, and if the new owner found anything, if investigators found anything, then that $95 million price tag starts to look less like a bargain, like the cost of silence. Because in a story like this, the real value isn't in the wall, it's in what those walls might have witnessed. And if the past few months have taught us anything, it's that the first domino is never the last. So the question becomes, where does this one fall next? Because when a mansion this famous sells for this, it doesn't signal the end of the story. It signals the beginning of the unraveling. The moment John Cooper took ownership of the Highland Park estate, the erasing began within weeks. The iconic 23 gate vanished. The basketball court, once the heart of the property, is reportedly marked for demolition. Even the cigar room, rumored to have hosted elite gatherings, was stripped down to bare walls. Critics called it renovation. Insiders called it something else. A deliberate effort to wipe away every trace of what might have happened behind those doors. Because when you're responsible for a property with a history this clouded, the last thing you want is the past resurfaced. Yet the more Cooper's team tore down, the louder the questions became. If this was a simple flip, why erase the legacy so completely? Unless, of course, that legacy wasn't only about basketball. And then there. The break-in viewed not as random vandalism, but as a targeted search. Yes, the official report described a small incident. A broken window. 2 young intruders. No stolen item. But here's the strange part. The mansion's security system was had been empty for years, so how did 2 outsiders breach it? So is Leon. Why, according to individuals close to the case, did they head straight for the east? The very area contractors once whispered about a former officer speaking anonymous. Claimed the intruders weren't wandering, they were looking, and they seemed to know what they were looking for. That east wing was rumored to contain rooms not listed on the official plan. Rooms with reinforced doors, rooms built for storage. Storage of what? And when you line that up with the whispered reports about federal interest in the property during its long life, the question becomes impossible to ignore. If investigators ever stepped inside that mansion, what exactly were they hoping to find?
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive...
But here's where the story slips into even darker territory, because the scandals swirling around the league aren't just about a few names. They point to an entire underground culture built on whispered deals and information traded like currency. In the fictionalized version of this world, one figure stood at the center of it, a former player with deep ties to star athletes, someone who allegedly funneled confidential injury updates to high-stakes bettors. He wasn't a nobody, he had access, connections, and a knowledge of the system that only an insider could possess. As one fictional prosecutor put it, he knew exactly where to look for details worth more than gold on game night, and that raises a chilling hypothetical. If someone like that could dig up sensitive information inside a modern locker, what could a person with access to a secluded, labyrinth-like mansion uncover? Because in this story, the mansion's owner wasn't just an athlete, he was an empire, a businessman. With global reach, someone who operated in boardrooms as often as arenas, the kind of figure whose deals stretched far beyond the scoreboard, whose negotiations unfolded behind doors that never made it into the public record. And if that mansion was ever used as a backdrop for those conversations, the implications shift dramatically. Then come the whispers about the gatherings.
Out and collect everybody's phone. So now it's just your word against a billionaire. You're gonna lose. Read this right there. From that.
But here's the real twist. While headlines swirl and everyone online argues about who's connected to what, both camps, the celebrities involved, and the people around, the mansion have stayed completely silent. No statements, no clarifications. And in the world of high-profile mystery, silence is its own kind of message. It doesn't confirm anything, but it doesn't clear anything either. Instead, it leaves a void. And in that void, theories start multiplying fast. So people began to wonder, was the sale of the mansion just a sale? Or was it a handoff, a passing of responsibility, and maybe even secrets to someone newbie? Because the speed of those renovations, the rush to erase the past, the sudden transformation of the estate, it all feels less like a remodel and more like someone who knew exactly what they needed to change and why. Which brings us to the question everyone wants answered. What do you think was hidden inside the mansion? Was it just an oversized luxury home, or a vault of mysteries that could reshape the way the sports world remembers certain Drop your theories in the comments. Hit that like button if this deep dive pulled you in, and make sure you subscribe, because if another clue surfaces, you'll want to be the first to hear about it. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, the biggest secret are usually the ones nobody wants to talk about.